Am I on? There we go. Hey. Oh, nice echo up here for me. All right. We will not go into your lunch. I promise. All right? I might just drop mid-sentence. You may not get my conclusion. I might not wrap up any points. That's fine. You guys don't really care. Because once it's lunchtime, you're not listening anyway. So, that is kind of my title at Adobe, and that's kind of what I send, but I do consider myself a designer. Though I don't look like one, I don't have any facial hair whatsoever. I have no distinguishing features. There's no glasses. I can't wear overalls correctly. I don't button the top button. So it does not need clapping. Right? No, he really pulls them off. I couldn't do that. I look like a former Mormon missionary who still shaves because he thinks it's going to give him superpowers, right? All right. Okay, so sometimes you suck. This is the title of my talk. It is intentionally supposed to make you feel something, right? I wrote this. I put up the proposal, and I put it on Twitter to get some feedback, and someone was like, "That's not good. You shouldn't be saying that." And I'm like, I know that. I'm not actually saying you guys suck, because you don't. I'm sure you don't. Maybe some of you do. I don't know. I want you to think, though, for a second. Imagine you go to a family reunion, and you've got, a spouse of a cousin who suddenly decided that they want to change fields. They want to change majors. Maybe they're at school for a little bit, and they want to go into whatever you're doing. They don't even know what you're doing. What is it? Product design? I don't know what that is, right? So they want to go into that. What would you tell them to do? What degree would you tell them to go get? Or what school would you tell them to go to? Any ideas? What would you say right now to somebody who wants to do this? Yeah? Go to Google University? Okay. Right. Self-time. I'm like, oh no, is that something I don't know? Is he cooler than me? I don't know what Google University is. Quickly Googling Google University. Anybody else? Is there anybody who's doing it right? Wow. There's a lot of silence. Okay. I don't know. I like the School of Visual Arts in New York. They've got a really good interaction design. They've got an amazing MFA program, right? I don't know. I really have always been a fan of BYU's MFA program in graphic design because that doesn't make any sense, but still. I don't know. That's kind of the problem. Maybe design school, but how many here went to design school? All right. How many of you dropped out of design school? Yeah, right here. Okay, there's not a program for this. There's not something that prepares you well for this other than doing it. Maybe a program will give you an opportunity to mess around with it, but you got to do it. Who thinks they have the most distant degree than what they're currently doing? I like Andy yesterday was anthropology. What? Someone over here? Raise their hand. Yeah, what do you got? Legal. Okay, that's pretty far. Are you doing design or are you doing management? Exercise science. Oh, man. And we come up with these ways, I did physics. That doesn't make any sense, right? But I got a teaching degree, so I was like, well, I can empathize with students. I like to teach. Right? No, I'm just making that up. Okay, so back to sucking. Sometimes you really do suck. And when I say this, I should say it's not you, it's your work, right? We should separate ourselves from our work. We know we should do that, but we don't, right? We always say we need to make sure that we don't let things get too personal, but that's a load of crap. We put ourselves into our work. We are going to feel invested in it, right? We can't judge a book by its cover. That's a load of crap, too, because what are you going to do? You're going to read every single book to figure out if it was good or not? You've got to go off of something, right? So you're going to read the book. Or you're going to look at the cover and you'll be like, that's garbage. Whoever illustrated this, I'm not reading this book. So yeah, we do. We feel like it's ourselves. And if you feel like you never suck, then we've got another problem, right? Okay, so there's the Dunning-Kruger effect. Now, this isn't anything political, but you run into the Dunning-Kruger effect, which was the study of asking people how well they think they did on a test after they finished a test. right? And it says that relatively unskilled people suffer from illusory superiority, mistakenly assess their ability to be much higher than it really is. So you can take that feeling of sucking as a good thing. That means you know enough to know that you're not perfect. Okay? You have enough experience in the field to realize you have some places that you could make improvements. So yeah, you should feel like you suck sometimes. All right, so whose fault is it? We got to blame somebody else. So we'll start with, there's a lot of reasons that sometimes our work doesn't turn out the way that we're proud of, or that we don't think it should. So we'll start with our industry. Our industry has some forces that it applies to us, some pressures that we feel, right? If you ever go on Dribble, and then you afterwards feel like your work is inferior because of somebody else's work. It's not that your work changed at all. It was because you went and looked at somebody else's work, right? So our industry can apply that force. It's not their fault. Also, negativity spreads like wildfire, right? If I tweet something that's like, hey, I just finished this big project, I'm really proud of it, I might get some friends to retweet or make some comments on it. But if I tweet something that is a scathing criticism, I'll get a ton of retweets on that crap, right? Because we love to share negativity. It's just part of our human nature. So what can we do about it? Not much. The industry's freaking huge, right? So unless you're a big thought leader in the industry, you're probably not going to be able to do much now. So the long-term thing is we spend time building up other people. We focus more on helping other people out, and we have some patience with the industry, okay? All right, so next, your company. This is our favorite one to blame. Deadlines are too tight, and they're usually set up by somebody else who comes down and says, we got to get this done for this conference, or whatever it might be that they made up to make you feel like it's important. You feel unappreciated sometimes, oftentimes. You're not sure if they even value design or even understand what design is. I love it when they're like, you know what? User experience is the most important thing at this company because everything that everyone touches has to do with the user. But yet they're not paying the user experience designers more than the CEO, right? That's not what they value most. Okay, where they're putting their money, oftentimes they're putting it into marketing, they're putting it into other things. So to say that user experience is the most important, they're doing that to make you feel good, right, as a user experience designer. And they should, right? It should be important. But owners of the company or CEO or manager or whatever they are, they're not user experience designers. They haven't gone through what you've gone through. So it's your job or our job to teach them the value of that. And that sucks for us because we didn't get into this job to teach CEOs what it means to do user experience. But that is our job. All right, other problems with the company. The companies are set up, they're designed to make you compete with your coworkers. Now, we don't explicitly always say that, but when a new promotion comes up, who are you competing with, right? Or if there is only so much money in the budget to give around for raises, that's getting split up among your coworkers. It is part of our system that we are in competition. It's why we don't always feel immediate friends with some people, right? Because we're like, they might actually look like they're better than us in front of the person who's making the decision on who gets the money, right? These things are annoying. This should not be a part of our thought process when we're going to do something creative. Thinking about money actually decreases our ability to do things that take any amount of cognitive thought, okay? So when you look at, Daniel Pink has a great book called Drive, and he's got a TED Talk about it because books are long, but he talks about if we increase rewards on physical or labor-intensive work, that does increase people's motivation to work harder. But as soon as we apply that sort of principle to work that takes thought, you actually decrease their performance, right? So the carrot and the stick, neither of those things work very well for trying to make someone more creative or making them produce creative work faster. You can create crap a lot faster, right? And we know that. We can go and get clip art, and we can throw it together and make it seem like it was ours. That's not what we want to do. Okay, and then on top of that, other things, if you're not getting paid enough, your personal life can suddenly have a huge impact on what you're doing. So what Daniel Pink, again, talks about is get paid enough that it's not something that you're preoccupied with. And then there are other things that you have to motivate you to actually get creative, okay? So get that taken care of. If you're not getting paid enough at your work, you need to take care of that. And it's easy just for me to say you need to take care of that as if that solves your problem. But you need to talk with your manager or whoever is in charge, probably not your manager, because middle managers have no power to do anything. They're just trying to keep you away from the person who does. So oftentimes, you got to talk with your manager and then get to that other person and say, look, I'm not making enough to survive here. I can't keep doing this. So I've got about this much runway left, and I'll keep working at it. But if we don't get this figured out, I've got to go. Right? So I put quit on here. Quit after you have something else in place. If your company's not working out for you, I am a big fan of leaving. Okay? But within reason. You've got to try the other stuff first. Because if you just quit every time you're mad about something, you're never going to be able to keep a job for very long. So yeah, quit when you get everything else taken care of as best you can. And know that people won't make large changes, and companies won't make large changes quickly. Okay? So if you don't have the patience to be able to wait around long enough, go find a better job. Yeah. Okay. So, your company. Now, to you. We get in our own heads, and this is my biggest problem. Those other things, they influence it, but it's the voices in my own head that screw me up the most. This is the imposter syndrome, right? This is, if you're part of a minority group, then you're sitting there wondering if other people are treating you different because of your ability or because of your minority status, right? That's something people with privilege, white males, we don't worry about. We're like, oh, we're awesome, and obviously they like us because we're awesome. We don't sit there wondering, hey, I wonder if they promoted me because they actually get along with me better because I'm a white male. We don't really worry about it. And if you're worried about money or personal life, this really gets in your head. So what do we do about this one? There's a couple of things, I don't know. We're creative. This is part of the package, right? It's part of the deal. We have voices in our heads, and we do our best to try and silence them. We have some patience with ourselves. You need to have more patience with yourselves than anybody else. And then we should set up reviews. Do design reviews with people that you trust who are honest with you. Okay? That doesn't mean inside your company always. This isn't about getting in front of the boss and getting attention. This is about improving yourself and having some voice of reason, because you'll find oftentimes that you're harder on yourself than you would be on other people. And so other people will give you some good advice and build you up as opposed to just telling you everything you say is garbage or everything you do is garbage. And then collaborate. This again goes back to that part of the culture where we're competing with other people or we feel like they're somehow adversaries to us at the company. We need to look for opportunities to work with other people and talk about how good of a job they're doing. Okay? This is good for us. It's a selfish reason that we should be doing this. Because when we build other people up, we actually feel better about ourselves and our place in the industry. Okay? Yeah, and just wait, keep working at it. I don't know. If you need some help, get some help, right? There are other problems beyond just don't be down on yourself. If you need some professional help, you need to get that professional help too. Okay? All right. So, the rest of the talk, my talk was actually given by Cap Watkins yesterday, which was awesome. So I changed it all, which is going to be fine. It'll be fine. But we're going to talk about collaboration and how, as designers, we can collaborate better. And this is collaborate with other designers, and this is collaborate with other developers. And I will tell you that open source developers do it way better than we do as designers. Doesn't mean it's perfect. I would not say that open source developers have perfect social skills, right? That's not necessarily something we attribute to them. But I will say they collaborate a lot better than we do. So let's kind of dissect it, why they do it, how we can apply some of it to what we're doing. Okay, so MIT did a study. They wanted to figure out why are so many developers giving away work for free, because that makes no sense from an economic standpoint. And their research, this was the result, says we find that enjoyment-based intrinsic motivation, namely how creative, right, they're talking about developers here, but namely how creative a person feels when working on the project is the strongest and most pervasive driver. We also find that user need, intellectual stimulation derived from writing code, and improving programming skills are top motivators for project participation. It's not to get a better job. Those things are good and important, right? We sometimes work on an open source project so we have something in our portfolio really quick, but those sort of things don't have lasting effects. It's enough to make a portfolio piece and we're done. But if you're lasting, it's because you feel some sort of fulfillment from this. They do it for the good feels, right? Do it because it feels good. And this, again, Daniel Pink, third time referencing him. I'm not getting paid, but you should read his book. But he talks about these three things: challenge, mastery, and then making a contribution to something significant. And I turned it off. Sweet. All right. So I worked for an airline for a short amount of time. It was a rough time, and it was a small airline. But this was our sister airline, Virgin America. Anyone flown on Virgin America? If you go through their system while you're flying, if you notice their entertainment system, it's got Doom on it. Because they've got a Linux-based system, and someone's like, hey, I've got a port of Doom that I can just throw in, and then they did. And it's a terrible experience. The game controller's really bad, it's not responsive, it's probably too slow, but it's fun. So they really care about open source software there. And at a conference, their CIO mentioned that building stuff for love of subject is superior to software built for profit. But how many of you get to work on something that you personally love? Right? A couple of hands, right? Oftentimes, though, if we think about it, if we weren't paid, would we keep doing it? Would we keep fighting to try and do it, even if we wouldn't be able to do it? So we have to try to facsimile, try to make up this love, right? If you're in the job interview for the position, oh yeah, I love financial markets. I'm really passionate about it, right? Because that's what they want to hear. But do we actually love what we're doing? And how do we make it so that we love what we're doing? Yeah, you can't force it to some extent, but we can fake some of it. And then the other part of it, a huge benefit of working in open source is we get these opportunities for collisions of ideas. There's another great book, Where Great Ideas Come From, and this is kind of the conclusion of it, that the real lesson comes from good ideas come from the chance favors the connected mind. The more that we have the opportunity to interact with other people and give them dumb ideas and they tell us why our idea is dumb, right, that's actually good for us and makes our ideas better. And we don't come up with anything on our own. There is no such thing as the eureka moment where, right, we like to do that as designers, where we're like, I was in the shower this morning and I had this vision of what I'm supposed to do today and it's going to work out perfect. Or we come down from the mountain with the perfect finished design comps and we're like, here is our new style guide system that we will all use and no one will ever have any problems. It doesn't work like that. We don't come up with anything on our own. Even when we think that it's our own, it's usually influenced by someone else's idea, and we force and we work our way to make it seem like it was somehow ours because that makes us more valuable. I go and do research on Dribbble. I'm stealing their stuff, right? That's what I'm doing. If you want to feel that way, go look at, there's a great series of videos called, it's called Everything's a Remix. It's amazing. Nothing has ever been done that's ever been original ever, right? Like you get done with that series and you feel better about yourself. Okay, so this is good. So that's about development in open source, but what about design? How do we apply this to design? How would it affect design? It's good. Design, it's kind of like when I got done with doing some open source, I kind of expected, I'm like, all right, so where are the designers at? And I'm like, oh, maybe they just haven't thought of it. I'll go tell designers they should do open source and they're going to love it. So go tell designers, hey, let's go do open source. Let's go. And you look behind you and no one's there, right? There are some real things that are stopping design as an industry from getting involved in open source. I feel like, as designers, we are damaged goods, right? We come out of some of these experiences with some scars, and we don't trust giving our stuff away for free. This isn't something that we want to do, because oftentimes we've been burned before by other things. Comp work, how much do we hate comp work, right? We rail against it. How many people are the $5 logos, the $5 logos? Ooh, right? We hate that stuff. So we feel that giving away something for free or even collaborating with others somehow diminishes our own value or our ability to provide value to somebody else. All right, so I kind of break it down to a few of them. Some of them are easy to change. It would take some work, but they're actually doable. But some of them are kind of more cultural. Lack of desire, I can't do much about that. If you don't want to participate or collaborate with other people, that's your own issue. Unreasonable greed, sometimes we're like, oh, I don't want to give this away. This idea is going to make me $1 million someday. I cannot let anyone see it, right? NDAs, oh, I love the NDA. Someone's like, oh, I want to share my idea with you, but I want you to sign my NDA first. Like, your idea is not worth anything, right? An idea without doing anything is absolutely worthless. So if collaborating with somebody else will make you do it, even if they somehow take some of the value away from it, it's actually getting done, so it's producing more value for you. Pride, yeah, fear of committee, that's a huge one as well. A lot of designers think that if we collaborate with other people, more people are going to be involved, and trying to get more people to decide on a design actually is the worst situation we've been in, where we have like a huge committee of stakeholders telling us how we should move the pixels around, right? We hate that. And it doesn't have to be that way, but that's a reasonable fear. And then tooling and file format. Those ones I think are actually easier. Those are things that we can build tools around. It was easier for developers because if a sharing or collaborative tool or workflow didn't exist, they had the skills, they just built it, right? GitHub came out of, or Git, not GitHub, but Git came out of a series of problems being solved, and suddenly they're like, hey, let's get a version control system that we can work remotely and that we can contribute to together, merging all this stuff. If we had that in Photoshop, I'm sure we could collaborate a little bit more. Okay, so everything has a manifesto. If you ever go look at the open source manifesto, it's amazing. And I'm not talking about open source manifesto, sorry. I should say talking about free. We're talking about Richard Stallman. His manifesto is fantastic because it's a short manifesto, and then the rest of it is just rebuttals as to why your arguments against it are wrong. And it is really good because he just decimates kind of arguments. But here's mine, a proposal. It's a little bit more humble than that one. Look for opportunities to design in the open. This doesn't necessarily mean open source. This means in the open, letting other people see your messy process. Share your design experiences, both the good and the bad. That's one of the problems of conferences like this. We get people who come up and like, we had a problem and I fixed it. This is what you should do, right? It doesn't go like that. We even go back and we retell our stories, kind of glossing over some of the parts that we found painful. We need to find time for meaningful projects. That means even if you're not getting paid for it. This is an important part of our psyche. Find something that you care about and find a way to collaborate or contribute to it in some way. This also goes back to the pay thing. If you're not getting paid enough or you're being overworked at work, you're not going to come home after work and be like, I want to give away some of my time, right? So get paid enough to survive. Get to that point. And then spend some free time, all that free time that we have. Openly participate in design discussions. This does not mean liking posts on Dribbble or saying, this looks great, right? Like if you go look at Dribbble, that's all of the discussions, like this is amazing. That's not useful design discussion, okay? And maybe Dribble's not the best place to do it, but we need to find ways to not tear down, but to build up other people through criticism. And then work with other designers by choice. We don't even do that always by really well. Last one, improve your toolbox. That one's huge. This was the original napkin because it's not a manifesto unless it's on a napkin. All right. So how? We're doing good, right? 12 minutes? I'm watching. Okay. How? First, share your process. Cameron Moll used to do this, and I think he did it again maybe it's been a little bit, but used to post his PSDs, right? Straight up source files. That didn't take any work for him to share that. It was just a matter of posting it. But how much can you reverse engineer by looking at how messy people's layers are and how they name things and what effects they're using, right? Share your process, share the mess, share how you went from, I like to post on Dribbble things that aren't done yet. I think that's fun. There's times where I posted something where it was like totally off center, and for some reason it just didn't appear to me because I'd been staring at it for too long. And somebody says, "That doesn't look good. You totally are off center." Was that intentional? It was just slight enough that you could tell it wasn't intentional. So yeah, share messy things. Share things that while it's going. Share your source files. Again, that's something that's really easy to do. It doesn't take any extra work. Throw it on Dropbox, public folder. Share a public link. Use code as a design tool. Now, if you've already heard that designers need to learn how to code, I know Cap mentioned it, like there's a lot of guilt associated with this feeling if you don't know how to code. It's not my intention to heap more on that. I don't want you to become a developer because I think that you should be coding all the time or that you should write production code. It's more, if you do code, you open up more opportunities to talk and collaborate with people who aren't using your exact tool set, okay? And we get all of the stuff for free that all the developers built for collaboration. If you are designing in HTML and CSS, people can fork and contribute back to whatever you're designing. We get it for free. Collaborate. Go find an open source project that you are using and look at their logo, if they have one, okay? Most likely they don't. If it's not product, or if it's not sponsored by a company, it's likely somebody who just did something and gave it to somebody else. Go look and see if you can collaborate with them and build something for them. We did this with Jade, and we made this rabbit logo, which was awesome. It was a lot of fun. And we used GitHub, and we explained design process to them. And I say we, it was me and a couple of other designers, but it was mainly a lot of developers saying, I don't like red, right? So it was, we talked through things, and it was good for us. It was painful, but that's work. That's what we do. We're skilled at it. So go and do that. It was fun because we did the Jade logo, and then they got a cease and desist from Jade Software. So now it is Pug, which is fun too, but I didn't make that logo. Or we'll see how that one turns out. Still, it's a fun name. Donate. Don't give away freebies, okay? I hate it when people put up free design resources and don't attach a license to it. You need to figure out how to use an open license, okay? Creative Commons, very easy. There's a lot of things that you can do. You can make it so that they have to give you attribution if you care about that, because you think people are actually going to do it. But like you should donate these things because they're not doing anything for you. They're not producing any value for you. They could for somebody else. And this includes things like logo comps, right? There's sometimes that we'll do something, we'll make 5 different comps, and they're only going to choose one of them. What are we doing with the other 4? Keeping that in case we're going to use it somewhere else? Maybe. But consider and talk with the client, because they oftentimes have ownership of anything that you produce for them on the project. Talk with the client and see if you can donate it. Make it open, make it available to other people. And there are people doing this. There's a whole series of open source brands or marks. I'm trying to think of the name of it. I'll tweet it later. But and then you've got like things like the Noun Project, where they're trying to figure out how to make money with it, but in essence, it's kind of the same sort of thing. And I already talked about this. Contribute to other people's work that's already there. Go find something. Go collaborate. Go do somebody else's idea. That's another hard part sometimes when we're talking about collaboration, especially on free projects. We know we have our $1 million idea. They have their $1 million idea. We're like, well, I don't want to work on that. That's not going to make me $1 million. This one's going to make me $1 million. Take some time to take yourself out of the equation a little bit and actually make meaningful contributions to somebody else's project, someone else's idea, okay? Maybe do a little bit of sharing. Be like, hey, we can work on this for a little bit, maybe work on mine for a little bit. I don't know. Figure out how to play and with others. If you are looking for somebody, I have projects that I'd like to do, but I also have projects that I'd like to help other people do. So if you need some help, if you want to just bounce ideas, I am there. Okay? I can't do everybody, and I'm not even that amazing, but I'm at least available sometimes. All right, shameless plugs. Topcoat. Topcoat's a CSS framework. If you are not familiar with it, it's probably because nobody is. But if you want to play around with it, it's something that I do at work. And we killed it because that's what companies do, and we're bringing it back to life because I care. So if you're looking for a project, there's one that I can help you find a place to make your first pull request if you've never done that. It is amazing when you make your first pull request. I have code that is going up on GitHub's servers, and it feels awesome. Nobody knows or cares. It feels good to me. And then I work on PhoneGap, which is an open source project, and it definitely wouldn't have survived without outside contributions. So if you're looking for a project or you need someone to mentor you through the process, I can help you. But there's other people as well. There's a whole project around called Your First Pull Request that I think Sean Hanselman's doing. There's some good people doing some good stuff around this as well. And we started a foundation, because apparently that's what you do as well. It's the Open Design Foundation, and if you Want to jump into our Slack? It's pretty quiet a lot of the times, but we jump in and we talk about things when we care. We have articles, and we have a GitHub repo that has a ton of issues that we intentionally leave for new people to try out, pull requests and things like that. So come hang out in there if you want to. So, yeah, you do suck. Really bad. But only sometimes, right? We do, at times, make work that we're really proud of, and we should take that into account as well. Go back and review some of your old stuff if you're feeling like you're sucking, and think about how far you've come, and also look at maybe you did do something good before. You'll find opportunities if you take some time to review past work that's actually good for you. And if you have any questions or if you want to argue with me, I'm on Twitter, and I'm also in the Slack. But thanks.